Oh, yeah. Yeah, good.
Yes.
Thank you for reminding me. Now, let's do a new topic. This is about economic systems. Economic systems. You remember we talked about availability of goods, government restrictions as restricting consumer sovereignty. Now, this links us up to the various economic systems that are available. Because why should we as consumers have restrictions? Why should there be limited choices based on government intervention? What kind of system are we talking about? What kind of economic systems are we faced with? So, economic systems are the way resources are organized, the way production processes are organized, the way factors of production are organized, who owns them, who controls them. That gives you what kind of economic system you are having. Production processes, who owns these production processes? Who owns the factors of production? Who owns and controls what is produced and what is not produced? So these factors of production are four, as you know. There's land, there's labor, there's capital, and then there's the fourth one is enterprise. Enterprise or entrepreneurship is the fourth factor, which is business. So if you have land, labor, and capital on their own, they will not produce anything. Somebody has to organize them into gear, into a production process. So this person who comes and organizes these three factors, land, labor, and capital, and starts producing, that skill, if it is not there, production will not happen. So this fourth factor, called enterprise or business or entrepreneurship, is a factor. Now, these four, who owns them, who controls them, will give you what kind of economic system you have in your country. So let me share something here. One, are you able to see the notes?
Yes, I'm able to see them.
Yeah, one big system of the many is called capitalism. We have about 4 economic systems. And these are capitalism, the opposite of capitalism, we have communism. Then, in between them, you have socialism or fascism. So there are about 4 economic systems. There are about 4 ways we can characterize how these factors of production are organized, controlled, and managed. So let's look at each one of them. The first one is capitalism. This one, its main characteristics is that it encourages private ownership of factors of production, especially the 4th factor. But all the factors of production are encouraged to be owned by individuals, private sector, private individuals, businesses. They are encouraged to own these factors of production, and they can do what they want. So you can operate a business and generate a profit. This system is also sometimes referred to as a market system. This capitalism, this system of ownership of factors of production called capitalism, encouraging businesses to own and manage, sometimes it is referred to as market system. So don't be surprised. Sometimes you read as, okay, this is a market system of government or capitalism, capitalist government. What it means the same thing.
Yeah.
So it is characterized by private ownership of land, labor rights, capital rights, and businesses. And it is assumed that this gives you because it's a market system, you want to see a perfect competition markets. So it's competitive markets that will help to allocate who controls what. And therefore, because it is left to the private sector, you must have with it a good, stable, reliable rule of law. Because otherwise there will be chaos, right?
Yes.
If we are all free to own anything and do anything, tomorrow, Joseph, you will start driving backwards. You'll be driving in town in reverse, from wherever you are staying to city center. Nobody should stop you. Or instead of driving to your left, you drive to the right. Or you may decide to build a house in the middle of the road. You have the rights. No, there must be a rule of law. Even though you are freely allowed to operate, markets are freely allowed to operate, and you hope there will be very little corruption. The market will set the prices. There must be a rule of law. So that's what capitalism is all about. So the principles of capitalism are: 1, private ownership. Number 2, free markets. Free competitive markets. Nobody interferes. You can decide how much you want to sell your potatoes once you have harvested them. You can decide who to sell to at the price you want, provided you have a buyer for it. You expect government not to come in and say potatoes should be sold at 500 kwacha kg. No, that's not a free market. Somebody should not tell you now that you have harvested maize, how much you should charge. That's not a free market. So, in principle, it is very difficult to find an economic system that is purely capitalism. In principle. So somehow, this is a theoretical concept of a market, of an economic system, because it is difficult to find a situation where in your economy, there's complete private ownership of all the factors of production, and that there's free markets, completely free markets, no government intervention, no government regulation. It's not easy. Even though some people will say, oh, America is a capitalist economy. Britain is a capitalist economy. Oh, Malawi, we are a capitalist economy. It's difficult to be purely that. So in summary, capitalism means production are privately owned. So if you are privately owned and controlled by free markets, consumers maybe will give you the signals. Maybe some consumer sovereignty might guide you, even though, as we have seen, there are a lot of limitations. So profit is the incentive to produce. You produce, you engage in production to make money. Number three, supply and demand drive the market prices, meaning there's perfect competition. So there's supply and demand. That's the only thing that will drive the market. And that these markets operate freely. Then if there are conflicts, we have a reliable legal system, rule of law. Government will come in as a referee with a rule of law and reliable legal system. Property, production processes are all privately owned. Another thing that goes with this is that inequality is very high in such a system. Some people will have more, others will have less. Why? Because those who win, win. You have losers and winners. Those who have the opportunity to be engaged in production, own factors of production, make a lot of money, they become kingpins. So that's why you have wealthy individuals who now start controlling things. So you have a lot, very high inequality. You have a lot of poor people and a lot of rich people in such a system. Government involvement is very low. So, as you can see from these notes, the summary includes good things and bad things. The main bullet points of our summary is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That summarizes what capitalism is all about.
Noted.
Any question?
So far, no question.
Good. One major benefit of capitalism is that it provides a very strong incentive for people to produce more. It gives incentive for people to innovate. For you to win in a free market, in a competitive market, you need to have some drive. You know, it's just like if you want to be a good footballer, if you want to be a star, if you want to excel, you have to work very hard on anything if you want to do well. And you get the reward for it. So capitalism gives you a strong drive to work extra hard, to be innovative, produce more, grow, improve, move forward in a positive way. And you are driven by the profit. Hunger to make as much money as you can. And people think that this is in line with human nature. So capitalism is good because it is in line with human nature. Human beings are by nature very competitive. Everybody wants more to himself.
Yes.
Ino simungafune Joseph kuti anzano aneba anzano akuchita bwino ino musachite bwino. You know, you also want the highest. Now, people also believe that because you are striving to compete and compete others out of your way, it also helps consumers in some way, because you would want to make sure you produce quality products that consumers like, than they like better than what your friend is producing. So at the end of the day, it's us, the customers, the consumers who benefit by the competition of these producers.
Yeah.
And it also, another benefit is that this capitalism allows resources to be allocated where they are best needed. How? Remember, we just discussed consumer sovereignty, that
Yes.
the goods that people like will be produced more. Your spending is a vote, so producers know which things people like or people want. So the resources will be channeled to producing those. So it's the resources are put to where these producers, they know they will make the greatest profit because they'll be selling more. So the resources are used to produce what we want. So us as consumers benefit. So that's in a nutshell what you can argue about in terms of the overall benefit of capitalism. But there are also challenges, as you can see from the summary that we put up there, that there are a lot of inequalities. So that's a disadvantage of capitalism.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take care of, it doesn't care about the people who are failing to make it in life. If you die poor, it's your own problem. If you cannot do well, it's your own problem. So, for example, those who have the highest skills or the highest education get employed and get paid good monies. Remember, labor, land, all that is privately owned, not government. So those who have got unwanted skills don't get employed. Those people who do not have the skills in demand, they get low-paying jobs. So it doesn't care about those who do not possess the skills that are in high demand. If you don't have skills that are not in high demand, sorry. Whether you will not be able to earn a living, shauri yako. That's your problem. So therefore, it results in very large disparities in wealth, in earnings. So you find kuti mwina amene angate kuyendesa ndege, they are pilots or they are engineers or they are computer, whatever, they are doctors or whatever, ma skills amene ani high demand azilandira ndalama zambirimbiri. Enafe, we are social workers, ndalama yochepa. And then, another disadvantage of capitalism is because people are so driven. They are so driven to make money. It presents an opportunity for corruption. So corruption exists in situations where people want to make money, because capitalism encourages you to get rich.
Yes.
So the system is prone to corruption, or it attracts corruption. So, because you want to be unfairly advantaged, mamoti ango kupasa tender in a free way, you want to be advantaged. So business owners, they are fighting for share. So people who have got, for example, political influence stand an advantage for government projects, for example. So those are some of the problems with capitalism. Lastly, its priority is on making profit and not social welfare. It would rather, that system would encourage only to have private schools, only to have private hospitals, no government. That's why I was telling you that it is very difficult in real life to have pure capitalistic system. So if Malawi was a capitalistic system, we will not have government-run hospitals, government-run schools, because these are social benefits, social welfare benefits, which capitalism doesn't care about. And issues of environmental degradation would just go unattended. Okay, so even though you have a government as a referee, as a regulator, you have a stable rule of law, a reliable legal system, there are problems with capitalism. Yes, so because of that, there are other systems of governments. For example, communism, which is the complete opposite of capitalism. Here,
What happened? The same way it happened last time, that session.
Uh-oh. You were sleeping.
No.
Oh, maybe you were thinking.
Yeah, I'm just quiet.
Yeah, so
it's like meditating.
okay. So communism is the opposite, where government owns everything. It owns all factors of production. All businesses are state-owned. Land, labor, capital, businesses, they are all owned by government. And so everybody has got a fixed standard of living. So everything is centrally owned. Allocation is not free. It's not, markets are not free. You don't have free markets. So sometimes this economic system is called command system. So you have capitalism, which sometimes is referred to as market system. Communism is sometimes referred to as command economy. Command economies or market systems is capitalism. Communism is command, meaning government is in command. So everything is allocated by government. No citizen whatsoever owns anything.
Okay.
No businesses are there owned by private sector. So you have all schools, all hospitals, everything, all the production companies, they are all government. All land is owned by government, not you and me. So you go and work on the land. What you produce is you all go and work on the land. Those who have got skills, they go and teach. Others go and build roads. Others go to the hospital. You know, so it depends on what you have been trained. That's what you do. And at the end of the day, you get, government gives you the food, gives you the house where to stay. You don't own the house. So maybe every Monday you go and collect rice and beans and chickens. Every Tuesday you collect whatever and whatever, you know, from government distribution centers. So it's a very, and at the moment, that system is not there. You don't have a complete communist economy in the world at the moment. There was some resemblance of that.
How about
many years ago when we had Soviet Union.
Yes.
And China maybe, but long time ago. It's all gone. There's no
North Korea?
Sorry?
North Korea?
I'm not sure about North Korea. North Korea, I'm sure there is a little bit of private as well, but I think, yeah, they could be, you are right, they could be closer to communism. Yeah, but pure communism is also difficult to find now. Just like pure capitalism is difficult to find. Okay, so you can start discussing the advantages and disadvantages. If you take what we talked about in capitalism, you can see that you can from there derive, for example, motivation, innovation cannot be there in capitalism. I mean, in communism, because there's no profit being a driver. Or everybody is the same fixed standard of living for everybody. So there's no incentive to work harder and blah, blah, and blah, blah. So you can see that whatever was a disadvantage in capitalism is probably the advantage that you get in communism. Whatever is a good thing about capitalism is what is not there in communism. So communism, you can condemn communism in terms of the advantages that are there in capitalism. And you can praise communism in terms of the disadvantages which are there in capitalism. So instead of us going listing, you can just do that. Are we together?
Okay.
Yeah. The
Yes,
disadvantages of capitalism, those disadvantages are the advantages in communism. And the good things about communism are the bad things that are in capitalism, and vice versa. Now we have a system which is in between. And this system which is in between, not necessarily called socialism, but socialism is a combination of communism and capitalism. This is where you have both individuals or private sector owning means of production. Private sector and government, both of them owning side by side. Sometimes competing. So you have a government hospital as well as a private hospital. You have a a government secondary school as well as a private secondary school. And sometimes they can compete. Sometimes it can be in mining. Sometimes it can be, for example, in marketing, Adimark versus vendors or other market agro dealers. You can have state-owned companies as well as privately owned companies. So what are the advantages of that? One big advantage is that government is now allowed to intervene in strategic industries, in strategic sectors. For example, those which have got social welfare attributes.
Yes.
Those sectors that need to be provided to everybody, regardless of people's ability to pay or not. Government can come in there. So everybody is saved. Not only those who are able to pay. But the problem is that now that you have government and private sector, and yet government is a regulator, there will be unfairness. That's the problem of this system. So you will find there's a government hospital and a private hospital. Government may become more strict about the standards in a private hospital, and yet ignoring its poor standards in a government hospital. Same thing with a secondary school. Government might ignore some poor standards in its own secondary schools and enforce standards in private secondary schools, thereby giving unfair advantage to private, to government owned institutions against privately owned institutions. So government there is in a dilemma. It has to protect its own son and discipline the other person's son. So you can see the problem there when both of them are running in one sector, and yet government is a stakeholder, but also a regulator. Okay?
Yes.
We have less than a minute. We will log in again just for another 20 minutes and then we finish. Because we'll be cut shortly. So log in again using the same link. So we finish off this. I don't want to come back to this topic. Next day. We finish it today.
All right.
So our chat there, as you can see, it says we have less than 1 minute. So anytime I'll be cut off. So